Well, interesting comment by JJ Reddick, and he was on a Bleacher Report show with Taylor Rooks, who Taylor does a great job there, gets a lot of great interviews, and she had a
I
really.
let her interview me.
See, look at what
I'm just saying.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Am I putting you on the spot?
Yeah, forget it. Forget it.
All right. She is a great interviewer. And she talked with JJ Reddick. They had a candid conversation. And Reddick had a probably to a lot of people a surprising comment about the backlash. And that's probably a tame term, especially when you're talking about LeBron James. But the backlash that LeBron and Kevin Durant took when they left Cleveland and Oklahoma City to go join super teams. Here's what Redick said.
But I think an underlying reason for the sort of the reaction to Kevin and LeBron making those decisions is because people were uncomfortable with powerful black men making a decision for themselves.
All right.
I would love to know what her pushback or follow-up question was, because Chris, I would not allow him to say that without him having to further explain himself. And what I'm saying is there might be truth to some of that, Chris, in certain situations. But when you talk about fans and their reaction, and you know the word fan is derived from the word, Chris, fanatic. People are into it. They live and die. They spend their excess money, their disposable income to buy tickets and to buy jerseys. And when somebody walks out on you, and that's the way, you can say whatever you want. He has the right. He's a free agent. That's not the issue. Chris, if they didn't care if LeBron James left the Cavs, they wouldn't be fans. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
They wouldn't be fans if they didn't care. Oh, he's leaving to go to Miami. Okay, great, LeBron. Take it easy. We'll see you next time. They had their hearts ripped out. Chris, one of their own from Akron, Ohio. He was supposed to deliver a championship. Remember, the job wasn't done when he left, right? The first time. The job wasn't done. So JJ Reddick, I get what he's saying, Chris, in certain situations. And the same thing with KD. It wasn't like that team, Chris, with Westbrook and Harden. They went to the finals. You know that?
Look,
yes.
They had Golden State down 3-1, Rob.
Don't make
when you
it
got
like
somebody down 3-1, you should win the series.
Right. But so the same thing. You have a star player, one of the best 2 or 3 players in the league, Chris, and he walks out on you. Not after he won a championship. He walked out on you and then joined the rivals. Come on. I think in those 2 cases, Chris, I don't believe that it was race. And you know this. Go look at the videotape. Black fans were burning LeBron James jerseys too. Well, people in Ohio were upset.
The interesting thing about the video is that the videos I remember from that night that the decision was made, Cleveland is a city that is over 50% African American. But if you watch that video, Rob, you would think Cleveland was Boise, Idaho. I don't know what bar they went to, and I get it, down in the flats or downtown.
There's certain places,
there are a lot of bars
like
that are
right.
Cleveland's very segregated. I lived in Cleveland.
Cleveland
lot of cities
is
incredibly.
Detroit segregated, Chicago
Cleveland's
segregated.
one of the most. I bet you Cleveland has to be one of the most segregated.
I would say Detroit and Chicago are right up there.
That about more than 90% of the African Americans in Cleveland live on the east side, and the west side has a couple of black little sections, but it's very split. But downtown, I mean, you remember those videos, Rob? Like,
yes.
I was like there was like 99% of the people in the bars were white, and obviously, as you said, they were crying, they were burning jerseys, they were calling LeBron out of their name. Here's what I'll say: Dan Gilbert's letter was racist. The Comic Sans letter, and I said this on the air. Went on ESPN Sports Center. The next morning, I was on all night, but I went on the next morning, and I said, you know how SportsCenter was, Rob. 99% of the time it was live, right?
Right.
For some reason, we were pre-taping.
Really?
Yeah, I don't even remember. Like, for some reason, we were pre-taping. And I said, they asked me that question. I said, Dan Gilbert talked about LeBron James like he was a runaway slave.
That
and
didn't
the producer, right? The producer who was black was like, Chris, stop,
No.
hold up, you know. And he was like, can you say it that you can say the same thing? I know what you mean, but without that phrase, you said a little differently. So we retaped it, and I said the same sentiment, but didn't use that phrase. But I had gone on radio after that and used that phrase and said it. And I talked about this on Colin today, but he did. He talked about LeBron like he owned him. Like how dare you leave me after all I did for you? And LeBron played out his contract, tried his best to win a championship. And I mean, he didn't make that last season just a horrible experience like a lot of guys when they leave. Anthony Davis, Carmelo Anthony when he left Denver. LeBron played it out and went for it, and they came up short. And so I thought that was racist, but I'll give you that, fans, because you're right. Even though I didn't really see any in the video, as I said, but I went to Cleveland. I'm from Cleveland. I went back, talked to people. And yeah, on the east side, brothers were burning that jersey too.
They were mad.
You know, black people were calling him Queen James too. You know, so yeah, it was just fans in that regard. Now, I'll say this, Rob, and this is what happens too when you hear sometimes black athletes refer to themselves as slaves, right? Or when they say we're on the plantation or something like that.
Right.
And a lot of times whites are like, what are they talking about? You make millions of dollars, which is true. They're not slaves, obviously. However, what was the dynamics of slavery were economics, power, and race. That's what slavery was about. It was about economics, power, and race. And whites got the economics, whites had the power, and obviously blacks were the labor. So when you look at sports, even though it's obviously not slavery, the dynamics are the same. It's economics, and as much money as the players make, the owners make more.
Well,
and
right. They're writing the checks.
Right. And power, the owners have
writing
the power.
you a check, right.
Yeah. And then the race, the players doing the labor, so to speak, are African-American largely in football and basketball. So that's why, you know, look, let's face it, Rob, in America, until we get over this racial issue, there can always be underlying issues of race seen in virtually every negative interaction between black and white. You know what I mean?
I don't disagree, and I said that in JJ Reddick's comments, Chris, that there are clearly situations. I just don't see when fans react when a guy rejects them and walks out on fans that they shouldn't care. Like, seriously. I think JJ Reddick is not being genuine from the standpoint of a fan who's going to say, that's great, LeBron. Go to Miami and have fun and win some championships. That's not a real reaction.
I think I obviously, and I don't think JJ could have expected them to be anything but upset. But had we, and maybe you did see it, Rob. I don't recall ever seeing jerseys burned. Did you ever see jerseys burned before LeBron's?
I don't remember a star of that caliber walking out on his team.
Well, Kareem demanded a trade from Milwaukee.
There was no social media. There was none of that. There was film back then.
TV.
I'm just saying,
radio.
Chris, in where we are, social media, totally different. And people know it because and people react to the cameras. We know that, right? Play to the cameras.
And see, that's what I think. And you're right.
But I think that's the environment we live in. I don't think that has anything to do with just LeBron.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Like, because you had the visuals were white people burning his jersey, calling him out of his name, saying all types of negative stuff about him and to him. And whether they, I don't know any of those people. So whether or not they had any racism in them when they were doing it, obviously it may have been subconsciously, But the optics are like, oh, now immediately you turn on him. And I get it. You're right, Rob. They're going to be upset. But immediately you turn on him. And now you calling him out of his name, cussing him out, burning his jersey.
But he walked out on you.
You could have been upset without burning a dude's jersey.
He walked out on you. And the way it was, Chris, I think it also has something to do with he was from there. It wasn't like it was a guy who was originally from Alaska.
Doubt,
he's a home guy. He was supposed to deliver. You know, how fortunate was Cleveland to get a guy from their hometown who's the best basketball player in the league to give up and throw his hands up and say, I'm out. I'm going to go team up with some other guys and go win a championship elsewhere. I think it was a combination of all that made people kind of, freak out about it. I do.
There's no question. And in Durant's situation, like you said, again, similar dynamics in that you had, you still had the economics, the power, the race, and most of the fans being white in Oklahoma City and all that. Maybe is there subconscious racism there? Is there overt racism? You don't know. You don't know with certain individuals there. But Durant, though, a lot of it was, I mean, come on. You joined a 73-win team.
Right.
That you had beaten in the playoffs.
You had
and then
on the
lost.
ropes. You had them on the ropes.
That was a lot of that. But I'll tell you what, too, Rob, and I covered a ton of games in Cleveland during LeBron's first stint there. And during his first stint there, the atmosphere, I'm telling you, Rob, it was as good as I've ever seen in the NBA. Just for your average regular season game, playoff game, whatever, it was the game presentation, the atmosphere. It was awesome. And when he left to go to Miami and then came back to Cleveland, I went back to games that second go round. Right. It was still good, but it was never the same, man. It was like the innocence was lost. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it was not the same. And
it's
they
like
won it, obviously.
Your girl cheated on you. You know what I mean? You forgave her, but you still deep down, Chris, you're like, I remember when she stepped out on me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And you can't let it go.
Yep. It was never the same. So interesting stuff. All right.